My beloved friend, as this Wednesday rises with fresh light and gentle promise, I invite you to take a deep breath and step into this sacred moment with me. The world may have demanded everything from you yesterday. It may have pulled at your hope, tugged on your joy, and whispered doubts into the corners of your heart. But today, on this blessed Wednesday, God is calling you into a new beginning. For today is not just another day. It is a miracle day, a turning point day, a day drenched in divine possibility. And I want you to know God still specializes in the impossible. He still breathes life into dead dreams. He still turns wandering souls toward purpose. He still takes broken pieces and crafts them into beautiful testimonies. So come close. Let us pray together. Let our words rise like incense. Let our faith stand tall like the old oak that refuses to bow to the storm. Wednesday prayer for transformation and blessings. Heavenly Father, on this sacred Wednesday we stand before you with open hands and open hearts. We come not in perfection but in humility. We come not as the world demands, but as your children, hungry for your presence, thirsty for your peace, desperate for your guidance. Lord, breathe on us today. Touch the places that ache. Heal the wounds no one sees. Restore the joy that slipped quietly out of our pockets when life grew heavy. Father, transform us from the inside out. Renew our minds. Rebuild our courage. Reignite our hope. Where there is confusion, bring clarity. Where there is fear, bring boldness. Where there is lack, bring overflow. Where there is pain, bring comfort. Where there is delay, bring divine acceleration. And God, for every mountain standing in our way, for every door that has stayed shut, for every battle that has lasted too long, show us once again that you can do the impossible. Lift us to higher ground. Bless the work of our hands. Strengthen our spirit. Surround our home with your angels, and whisper to our soul that greater days, brighter days, blessed days are on the way. In this moment, Lord, we surrender. We release the heavy burdens. We let go of what we cannot control. We place our dreams, our family, our future, our health, our finances in your mighty hands. Because with you, God, the impossible becomes possible. The unimaginable becomes reality. The delayed becomes delivered, and the broken becomes beautifully restored. We trust you. We honor you. We walk into this Wednesday believing that miracles are already unfolding. In Jesus' name, amen. When the sun rises on a Wednesday morning, it doesn't simply climb into the sky. It brings with it a quiet revolution, a whisper from the heavens, a gentle nudge from God himself saying, "Child, start again. Begin anew. Step into this day as though it was sculpted just for you." For Wednesday is not the middle of the week, it is the doorway to transformation, the hinge on which your entire destiny can turn. It carries the soft reminder that God doesn't wait for perfect conditions, perfect timing, or perfect people to begin his perfect work. He moves in ordinary moments and turns them into extraordinary miracles. You see, new beginnings don't always announce themselves with trumpets. Sometimes they show up in the hush of dawn, in the stillness before the world wakes up, in the breath you take that reminds you life has given you one more chance. And that is what this Wednesday is. Your chance, your invitation, your open window. This day comes bearing the weight of possibility. It stretches its arms toward you and says, "Come, walk with me. There is more for you than what you left behind." Too often we trap ourselves inside yesterday. We replay the conversations we should have handled differently. We carry the sting of disappointment like a heavy coat. We hold on to failed dreams as if clutching them tightly will somehow change their past. But my dear friend, Wednesday rises to tell you that yesterday is not your prison. The past is not your identity. The mistakes you made do not stamp themselves permanently on your soul. God, in his infinite mercy, rewrites, reshapes, and restores. He is not the God of one chance, nor the God of two. He is the God of countless new beginnings. On this Wednesday, he hands you a gift wrapped in grace, a fresh start. You may not feel ready, but new beginnings seldom wait for readiness. They call forth courage. They ask you to step when your legs tremble, to hope when hope seems small, to trust when the road goes dim. And when God is involved, the smallest step becomes a giant leap toward transformation. Think of the flowers that bloom after the harsh winter. They do not bloom because the world becomes gentle. They bloom because the Creator whispers now. That same whisper is hovering over you this Wednesday. Whether your soul is weary or your spirit is strong, God is saying, now is the time. Rise, try again, believe again. There is a holy insistence in this day, a sacred urging that refuses to let you stay stuck. Wednesday is like a hand that reaches into your valley and lifts your chin toward the hills. It reminds you that God's faithfulness is not seasonal. His mercies do not shrink. His love does not tire. Each sunrise is a page turned, a new chapter beginning, a promise renewed. And perhaps you feel as though too many pages have been stained by tears, too many chapters marked by failure, too many days shadowed by fear. But even then, God steps into your story and says, I am not finished with you yet. Wednesday becomes the canvas on which He paints redemption. It becomes the stage on which miracles rehearse their entrance. It becomes the moment when you realize that nothing you lost outweighs what God still has in store. You must understand, new beginnings are not always loud. Sometimes they arrive quietly through clarity, a sudden peace, a lifting of heaviness, a new idea, a renewed strength, a subtle shift in your spirit that says, I can do this, I can move forward, I can try again. That whisper, that feeling, that is God placing His hand gently between your shoulder blades, guiding you into the next season. And don't you dare think for a moment that you are alone in this. Heaven watches over you with tenderness. Angels walk beside you with purpose. The God who shaped galaxies with His words leans close to shape your future with His love. What a beautiful truth it is. Every morning, but especially this Wednesday morning, you are held, guided, and carried by divine care. So stand tall today, even if your heart trembles. Stand. You are stepping into a day carved out for transformation. A day with your name written on it in the handwriting of God. A day that carries answers to prayers you forgot you prayed. A day that holds the promise of changes you feared would never come. A day that breathes hope into bones that felt dry. Embrace this Wednesday with a grateful, expectant heart. Treat it not as a continuation of the week, but as the beginning of something sacred, something beautiful, something divinely orchestrated. Let go of the weight you carried from yesterday. Drop it at the feet of God. Walk into this day with empty hands, so He can fill them. Walk into this day with open arms, so blessings can meet you. Walk into it with lifted eyes, so you won't miss the miracles rising around you. For today is not just a day, it is a promise, a whisper, a doorway, a fresh start wrapped in God's unending kindness. And as long as He is the one guiding your path, today has every reason to become the day that changes everything. There are moments in life when the weight of the world presses so firmly against your shoulders that you begin to wonder if God still remembers your name. You look at the mountain standing before you, unmoved, unbothered, unbroken, and something inside you whispers, maybe this is too big. Maybe this is too hard. Maybe this is the one thing God won't fix. But my dear friend, let me tell you something in the gentle, resolute tone of truth. God specializes in the impossible. When the human hand reaches its limit, when the human mind cannot conceive a way, when every door slams shut and every attempt collapses, that is exactly where God begins. The impossible is not God's obstacle, it is His opportunity. It is the canvas where He paints His greatest masterpieces, the soil where He plants His strongest miracles, the stage where He steps forward and shows the world that He alone holds the final say. Because the truth, deep and unwavering, is this: God does not tremble at the size of your mountain. He does not flinch at the depth of your valley. He is not intimidated by the storms swirling around you. What terrifies the human heart is the very thing God transforms with a single breath. You see, we often measure God by the limits of our own understanding. We look at our pain and say, this is too much. We look at the closed door and say, this is the end. We look at our emptiness, our brokenness, our failure, and we whisper to ourselves, there is no way out of this. But beloved, God is not bound by the borders of your experience. He is the Creator who stepped into nothingness and made everything. He is the one who told the seas where to stop and the sun when to rise. He is the one who speaks to the winds and they obey, who walks on waves as though they are solid ground, who resurrects what the world has already buried. So when life says impossible, God says, watch me. There have been moments in your life, quiet ones, forgotten ones, when God carried you through storms you didn't even have the strength to pray about. Times when you survived what should have broken you. Times when you got back up after falling harder than anyone knew. Times when your heart healed in places you didn't even realize were wounded. Those were not coincidences. Those were not lucky moments. Those were not random acts of survival. Those were God's fingerprints all over your story. And if He did it then, He can do it now. If He parted waters before, He can part them again. If He broke chains before, He can break them again. If He made a way where there was absolutely no way, He can open a path right under your feet. But the human heart forgets. It forgets the miracles it once walked through. It forgets the nights when God held it together. It forgets the whispered prayers that turned into breakthroughs. So today, and especially in this sacred Wednesday moment, you must remind yourself God can do the impossible, and He delights in doing it for you. Sometimes the impossible doesn't look like fire from heaven or the earth shaking under your feet. Sometimes it's quieter, more intimate. Sometimes the impossible is waking up with peace after nights of crying. Sometimes it's forgiving someone who never apologized. Sometimes it's finding strength in the middle of exhaustion. Sometimes it's taking the first step toward a future you're still afraid of. Miracles are not always dramatic. Sometimes they are soft, gentle, and deeply personal. God moves both in thunder and in whisper, in earthquake and in stillness. He moves when you feel Him and when you don't. He moves when you believe and even when your faith is trembling. There is a reason He lets certain battles last longer than we expect. Not because He is silent, not because He is distant, but because He is crafting a miracle so profound, so unshakable, so undeniable that when it arrives you will know without a shadow of doubt. It was God. Only God. Always God. And let me tell you something else, dear heart. God often waits until the situation looks truly impossible before He steps in. Not to frighten you, but to free you from the illusion that you must save yourself. He waits until human options fail so His glory can rise. He waits until your strength is empty so His power can overflow. He waits until you surrender fully, deeply, willingly, so He can lift you higher than you could have climbed alone. Because in the end, the impossible is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to introduce you to the God who has no limits. So lift your head today. Lift your spirit. Lift your expectation. You may not see how, but God sees every detail. You may not know when, but God's timing is woven with wisdom. You may not feel strong, but His strength is wrapped around you like a cloak. You may not see movement yet, but heaven is already shifting things in your favor. The God who turns water into wine, who makes dry bones rise, who opens prison doors in the midnight hour, He is working on your behalf right now. What you call impossible is simply the starting point of His miracle. What you call hopeless is the ground where He plants deliverance. What you call over is only the place where God plans to begin again. So do not shrink. Do not doubt. Do not fear. Stand tall even with trembling knees. Walk forward even with a trembling heart. Believe even with trembling faith. Because the God you serve, the one who crafted galaxies and carved rivers with His hands, is the God who will take your impossible and turn it into a testimony that will echo through every chapter of your life. He has done it before. He will do it again, and He will do it for you. There comes a time in every soul's journey when the outside world grows too loud and the inner world grows too quiet. When you move through your days with a brave face, yet inside the heart trembles like a candle in a restless wind. And in those sacred, vulnerable moments, what you truly need is not another opinion, not another distraction, not another burden to carry. You need transformation from within. You need a gentle renewing of the mind, a softening of the spirit, a cleansing of the heart. You need God to reach down, touch the invisible wounds no one sees, and whisper healing into the deepest parts of your being. Transformation does not arrive like a storm. It comes like dawn, soft, steady, sure. It does not shout, it whispers. It does not rush, it unfolds. And it does not come from the world around you. It rises from the God within you. You see, the human heart is a fragile thing. It remembers what it should forget and forgets what it should remember. It clings to words spoken in anger and releases the words spoken in love. It holds on to old battles long after the war is over. And sometimes, without realizing it, we walk through life carrying invisible bruises, mental scars, emotional knots, spiritual heaviness. But today, in this moment, God is inviting you into a quiet, holy transformation. A transformation that begins where your pain lives, where your fear hides, where your joy sleeps. This is not the kind of transformation the world teaches, the kind that asks you to pretend, to perform, to hide behind a mask. No, this transformation is gentle, intimate, sacred. It is God's hand shaping you from the inside out. It is His breath blowing away the dust that has settled on your dreams. It is His light reaching into the corners of your soul where shadows have lived too long. Transformation begins with honesty, being truthful with yourself about the weight you've been carrying, the thoughts that have held you hostage, the emotions you tried to outrun. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot release what you keep hiding. You must lay it bare before God, for He already sees it anyway. Not to shame you, but to free you. And when you surrender those heavy pieces, God begins the quiet work. He takes the tangled threads of your thoughts and rewrites them with truth. He plucks out the lies the world planted in you. Lies that said you are not enough. Lies that said you are unworthy. Lies that said you are forgotten. Lies that said you will never change, never rise, never heal. Lies that were spoken by wounded people who could not see the light in you. God replaces those lies with His truth. A truth that glows brighter than the sun. A truth that declares you chosen, you cherished, you seen, you loved beyond measure. And when this truth settles into your spirit, transformation begins to bloom like spring after a long winter. But transformation also requires pruning. God in His tenderness will begin removing what has no place in your future. He will prune negativity. He will prune fear. He will prune anxiety. He will prune bitterness. He will prune anything and anyone who blocks your growth. And pruning is painful, because it takes away what we've gotten used to, even if it harmed us. But pruning is necessary, because without it you cannot blossom. And oh, my dear friend, how beautifully you will blossom. You will blossom in your thoughts. You will blossom in your heart. You will blossom in your faith. You will blossom in your purpose. You will blossom in your purpose. You will blossom in your purpose. Transformation is not instant. It is not convenient. It does not come wrapped in comfort, but it is holy. It is worth it. It is the path to freedom. As God transforms your heart, He strengthens your spirit. He lifts the heaviness you've been carrying. He breathes courage where fear once lived. He pours peace into the cracks left by worry. He rebuilds your confidence, not based on the world's standards, but on His everlasting love. And when God transforms you, the world cannot help but notice. You will speak differently, walk differently, think differently. You will notice how old battles no longer disturb your peace, how old triggers no longer pull you backward, how old wounds no longer control your steps. Because transformation does not just change your circumstances, it changes you. You become unshakable, unbreakable, unmovable. Not because life stopped being hard, but because God made your spirit strong. And the joy, oh, the joy that comes with transformation. the joy of waking up without dread, the joy of breathing without heaviness, the joy of walking into a day with calm instead of chaos, the joy of knowing you are growing, shifting, rising into the version of yourself that God always intended. Transformation is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to who you were before the world scarred you. It is about rediscovering the strength you buried, the hope you abandoned, the faith you silenced, the purpose you questioned. It is about coming home to your true self, the self God crafted with intention, shaped with love, and breathed life into. So today, let God do the inner work. Let Him cleanse your thoughts. Let Him heal your heart. Let Him restore your peace. Let Him renew your mind. Let Him rebuild your courage. Let Him transform you from the inside out. Because when God changes you internally, your entire external world shifts as a reflection of that miracle. And soon you will look back and realize that the version of you standing in the light is the answer to the prayers you whispered in the dark. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not defeated. You are transforming. You are not forgotten. You are being reshaped for greatness. There comes a moment in every believer's life when the heart yearns not only for transformation within, but for God's covering around, the kind of divine protection that wraps itself around your home, your health, your work, your dreams, and your peace, like an unbreakable shield. There is a sacred longing inside each of us to be held by something greater than fear, something stronger than circumstance, something deeper than the shifting winds of life. And in that longing, God meets us with His blessings and His protection, blessings that enrich without sorrow, protection that surrounds without fail. When you lift your voice and pray for God's guidance and His divine hedge around your life, you are declaring to the universe that you do not walk this world alone. You are inviting heaven to come close, to step into your story, to weave its golden thread through every detail of your existence. You are saying, Lord, I need you to go before me. I need you to walk beside me. I need you to stand behind me. And my dear friend, in the quiet strength of those words, God moves. Blessings do not always fall like rain. Sometimes they come like a soft breeze lifting the heaviness from your shoulders. Sometimes blessings arrive disguised as clarity, clarity to see the truth, clarity to make the right decision, clarity to let go of what drains your soul. Sometimes blessings come as peace so deep, it settles in your chest like a warm sunrise after a long night. And protection, oh God's protection, is tender but mighty. It is the unseen force that turns harm away from your doorway. It is the whisper that tells the storm you may blow, but you will not break this one. It is the hand that pulls you back when danger stands too close. It is the covering that keeps you safe in ways you will never fully know, because God prevented battles you never even saw coming. A blessed life is not a life without challenges. It is a life where God's hand moves you through the challenges with grace. A protected life is not a life without threats. It is a life where every threat bows to the one who watches over you. And so, when you pray for divine blessings and protection, you are not begging for gifts. You are aligning yourself with a promise. God promised to bless those who walk in His light. God promised to guide those who seek His direction. God promised to protect those who call on His name. And my dear, God's promises do not tremble, do not waver, do not fade. They stand as firm as mountains and as gentle as morning dew. In this sacred prayer for guidance and blessing, you ask God to touch the work of your hands. You ask Him to bless your job, your business, your dreams, and every seed you have planted. Because sometimes you work with all your heart and still feel like the harvest is small. But when God's blessing breathes upon your efforts, even the smallest seed blossoms into abundance. Even the smallest opportunity becomes a doorway. Even the smallest idea becomes a breakthrough. You ask God to surround your home with angels, not because you live in fear, but because you recognize the spiritual truth that every home needs a covering of light. A home protected by God becomes a sanctuary, a place where peace lingers in the corners, a place where arguments lose their power, a place where love finds its voice again, a place where children sleep under the warmth of divine watchfulness. And let me tell you something. God's protection is not only physical, it is emotional, spiritual, mental. He protects your mind from thoughts that try to steal your sleep. He protects your heart from people who come to wound. He protects your peace from chaos disguised as opportunity. He protects your spirit from the darkness that tries to dim your glow. When you ask for God's blessing, you are asking Him to pour His goodness over every part of your life. And blessings do not always look like wealth or material things. Sometimes blessings look like restored relationships. Sometimes blessings look like a healed heart. Sometimes blessings look like courage to start again, courage to walk away, courage to choose joy even when sadness sits close. Blessings are not always loud. Sometimes they tiptoe into your life quietly and transform everything without announcing themselves. And when you pray for God's guidance, you are acknowledging that you cannot do life alone. You are reminding your soul that every step you take must be ordered by God, because when God guides you, wrong doors close before you even reach them. Harmful people lose access to your heart. Mistakes are redirected into lessons. Confusion fades into clarity, and the path that once felt tangled becomes straight. God's guidance is gentle, like a lamp lighting one step at a time. Not the whole road, just the next step. Because faith grows when you trust God even when you cannot see the full picture. And God in His loving wisdom reveals only what is necessary for your next move. He guides with purpose. He directs with love. He leads with intention. There is something powerful, something life-shifting about inviting God's blessings and protection into your day. You are telling your fears they have no dominion. You are telling your doubts they cannot win. You are telling your past it does not dictate your future. You are telling your spirit to rise, to stand strong, to walk boldly. And God hears you. Heaven hears you. Angels gather. The atmosphere shifts. Your steps become ordered. Your path becomes guarded. Your life becomes layered in divine grace. You are not walking blindly, you are walking guided. You are not standing uncovered, you are standing protected. You are not moving alone, you are moving with heaven beside you. So as you pray, ask God to bless your day and enlarge your territory. Ask Him to remove obstacles that were never meant for you. Ask Him to break chains that have wrapped around your bloodline for generations. Ask Him to silence every voice that rises against your destiny. Ask Him to open doors that align with your purpose. Ask Him to cover your loved ones with peace and protection. Ask Him to plant your feet on solid ground where you cannot be shaken. And then to seal it all, thank Him. Because gratitude is the heartbeat of blessing. Gratitude tells God, I trust you even before I see the miracle. Gratitude transforms the atmosphere. Gratitude prepares the heart for overflow. Let this be your truth. You are blessed in ways you cannot yet see. You are protected in ways you will never fully know. You are guided by a God who loves you fiercely and faithfully. And everything that concerns you is held gently, firmly, powerfully in His hand. There comes a sacred hour in every person's life when faith becomes more than a whispered hope and rises into a living force that holds the heart steady. An hour when you decide, not by emotion, not by convenience, but by conviction, that you will walk through this life with expectation, with confidence, and with the quiet assurance that God is already working behind the scenes. And this, my dear friend, is where the true miracle begins, not simply in what you pray for, but in how you choose to walk after the prayer is spoken. When you walk in faith, you are stepping into an ancient, powerful lineage of believers who trusted God even when their eyes could not find evidence. You are joining the chorus of souls who dared to believe that what God whispered in the dark would shine in the light. You are aligning yourself with divine truth, divine rhythm, divine order. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing, stronger than a person who walks with expectation. Expectation is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is not entitlement. It is the soul standing tall, saying, my God is faithful and I trust Him. It is the heart understanding that if God planted a desire within you, He fully intends to bring it forth in His time. It is the mind deciding to silence doubt, fear, and negativity, because they have no right to speak into a future God is already shaping. Life has a way of trying to wear you down. Trials tug at your hope. Delays whisper discouragement. People misunderstand or underestimate you. Circumstances try to tell you that nothing is moving, nothing is changing, nothing is blooming. But child, the soil is always working even when the seed is silent. And so is God, working, arranging, shifting, preparing, aligning. This is why walking in faith is an act of courage. You look at what is and still believe in what will be. You face closed doors and still trust that a better one is unlocking. You stand in the shadows and still believe light is on the way. You carry wounds and still believe healing is possible. You hold empty hands and still believe fullness is coming. Faith is not blind. Faith sees what the natural eye cannot. Faith is not foolish. Faith is spiritual intelligence. Faith is not passive. Faith is active expectation. And when you begin to walk in this strength, you activate heaven's movement. Blessings begin to shift in your direction. Breakthroughs begin to gather. Divine appointments start aligning. People who were meant to elevate you begin to find you. Opportunities hidden behind the curtain begin to step into view. Because faith is not merely a feeling, it is a force. Now, walking in expectation also means walking with patience. Not the kind of patience that suffers in silence, but the kind that rests in trust. When you walk in expectation, you no longer worry about the clock. You no longer fight the calendar. You no longer compare your journey with someone else's timeline. You learn that God often saves the best for last, because He prepares you while you wait. Patience teaches your spirit to settle. It teaches your mind to breathe. It teaches your heart to trust the process. And one day, without warning, what you waited for appears not as a struggle, not as a burden, but as a blessing tailor-made for you. Expectation also requires gratitude. Gratitude is the language of faith. It tells God, I believe you before I see it. Gratitude keeps your heart open. Gratitude keeps your spirit soft. Gratitude attracts divine movement. A grateful spirit finds blessings in places others overlook. When you walk in gratitude, even your steps become worship. Now, let me tell you something that will strengthen your soul. Expectation is contagious. When you walk in faith, everything connected to you begins to rise. Your home becomes lighter. Your conversations become richer. Your presence becomes healing. People sense peace when you enter a room. Children feel safe around you. Loved ones draw courage from your calm. When you believe in God's movement, you give permission for others to believe too. And when you walk with expectation, you are no longer shaken by storms. Storms may roar, but they cannot uproot a heart anchored in faith. You begin to understand that storms do not come to destroy you. They come to reveal the strength God built inside you. You start seeing challenges not as barriers, but as stepping stones. What once made you fearful now becomes an opportunity to grow. Expectation changes your posture. It lifts your head, straightens your back, strengthens your voice, brightens your spirit, sharpens your discernment. It teaches you to listen to God's whispers more than the world's noise. Walking in expectation also means guarding your environment. Not everyone can walk with you into this season. Some people carry doubt like a badge. Some speak fear like a second language. Some see only problems, never solutions. And if you walk too closely with them, their words begin to seep into your hope and shrink your belief. So you learn to set boundaries not out of anger, but out of wisdom. You protect your peace. You guard your spirit. You nurture your faith like a flame that must not be smothered. And in doing so, you create space for God's promises to flourish. One day you will look back and say, Lord, you were there all along. You will remember the nights you cried, the days you felt alone, the moments you questioned your strength. And you will see how every valley taught you something vital, how every delay protected you, how every disappointment shaped you, how every closed door was a redirection towards something better. And you will realize that your expectation, your faith was never in vain. So today, walk with your shoulders relaxed, your heart steady, your mind lifted. Walk as if heaven is backing you, because it is. Walk like someone who knows that miracles do not follow doubt, they follow belief. Walk like someone who understands that every step forward is a step into promise. Walk like someone who knows they are chosen, guided, protected, and deeply loved. Walk with expectation because God is already moving in your favor. Walk with expectation because the impossible is possible with Him. Walk with expectation.